Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our discussion. Today, we delve into a question that sparks considerable debate. Is the practice of keeping animals in zoos ethically justifiable? It's a topic with passionate arguments on both sides, touching upon our relationship with the animal kingdom and our responsibilities towards it. Joining us to explore this complex issue are Dr. Eleanor Vance, a renowned zoologist who believes in the ethical role of modern zoos, and Mr. Ben Carter, a dedicated animal rights activist who challenges their very existence. We will begin with opening statements from each of our guests, followed by a moderated discussion and rebuttal. Finally, each speaker will deliver a closing statement. Dr. Vance, please begin.
Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here. While I understand the historical criticisms of zoos, it's crucial to recognize that reputable, accredited zoos today are vastly different entities from the menageries of the past. They have evolved significantly, placing animal welfare, conservation, and education at the forefront of their missions. My first point centers on conservation. Modern zoos are absolutely crucial players in the global effort to preserve species. Many animals face unprecedented threats in the wild: habitat loss, poaching, climate change. For some, zoos offer the only lifeline against extinction. We manage sophisticated breeding programs for endangered species, such as the Amur leopard or the California condor. These programs not only increase numbers, but also maintain genetic diversity, which is vital for the long-term survival of these species. Many animals bred in zoos have been successfully reintroduced into their natural habitats, a testament to the efficacy of these initiatives. Secondly, zoos are invaluable educational resources. They provide millions of people, especially children, with the opportunity to see and learn about animals they might otherwise never encounter. This direct experience can foster a profound appreciation for wildlife and inspire a commitment to conservation. Education programs in zoos raise awareness about the threats animals face and what individuals can do to help. Finally, zoos make significant contributions to scientific research. They offer unique opportunities to study animal behavior, biology, physiology, and veterinary medicine in controlled, yet enriching environments. This research benefits not only the animals in our care, but also their wild counterparts, informing conservation strategies and improving animal welfare standards globally. The knowledge gained is indispensable. Therefore, I firmly believe that well-managed, ethically driven zoos are not only justifiable, but are essential partners in the global conservation movement.
Thank you, Alex. And Dr. Vance, while I acknowledge that some individuals within the zoo community may have good intentions and that some superficial improvements have been made, the fundamental ethical problems with keeping wild animals in captivity remain deeply troubling. My primary concern is animal welfare. Despite the best efforts and claims of providing enriched environments, confinement inevitably leads to stress and a host of abnormal behaviors, collectively known as zoochosis. Pacing, swaying, bar biting. These are not signs of content animals. They are symptoms of psychological distress caused by unnatural living conditions. For many species, particularly large, wide-ranging animals like elephants, big cats, or marine mammals, zoos simply cannot provide the space or complexity they require. Their lifespans are often shorter in captivity compared to their wild counterparts, and they suffer from a range of physical ailments related to their confinement. Secondly, there's the moral justification, or lack thereof. Do we, as humans, have the right to deprive sentient beings of their freedom and autonomy simply for our entertainment, or even, as is often claimed, for conservation? If conservation efforts compromise the well-being of individual animals to such a significant degree, we must question the ethical basis of such an approach. The ends, however noble they may seem, do not always justify the means. And thirdly, the artificiality of the zoo environment is an inescapable issue. No matter how well-designed an enclosure is, it can never truly replicate the intricacies and challenges of an animal's natural habitat. This lack of authentic environmental stimulation profoundly impacts their physical and psychological needs, leading to a diminished quality of life. Animals in zoos are essentially living exhibits, not wild beings. Therefore, I contend that the practice of keeping animals in zoos is inherently problematic, and that our focus should shift entirely towards protecting animals in their natural environments.
Thank you both for those comprehensive opening statements. Dr. Vance, Mr. Carter raised serious concerns about zoochosis and the inherent limitations of zoos in replicating natural habitats. How do modern accredited zoos specifically address these profound animal welfare issues and the psychological well-being of the animals in their care?
That's a very important question, Alex. Modern zoos invest heavily in addressing these welfare concerns. We employ dedicated teams of behaviorists and veterinarians who develop sophisticated environmental enrichment programs. These aren't just token gestures. They are scientifically designed to stimulate natural behaviors, reduce stress, and provide cognitive challenges. This includes complex feeding mechanisms, varied social groupings, puzzle feeders, and dynamic habitat features that change regularly. Regarding habitat design, there's been a revolution. Enclosures are now much larger, more naturalistic, and tailored to the specific biological and psychological needs of each species. We utilize advanced veterinary care, including preventative medicine, that often surpasses what animals receive in the wild, where they face disease, injury, and starvation without intervention. Furthermore, while it's true that no enclosure can perfectly replicate the wild, it's also important to remember that many wild habitats are increasingly degraded, fragmented, and dangerous due to human activity. For some species, a well-managed zoo offers a safer, more stable environment. And critically, for species extinct in the wild or on the very brink, zoos are their only hope for survival, their last ark.
Dr. Vance, while I appreciate the efforts towards enrichment and improved enclosure design, these measures, in my view, are ultimately palliative. They are attempts to mitigate the inherent harms of captivity, not solutions to the fundamental problem. Enrichment can, perhaps, make an unnatural life slightly more bearable, but it doesn't make it natural or fulfilling for a wild animal designed to roam vast territories, or live in complex social structures that cannot be replicated. You mentioned conservation, but let's be realistic about the scope. How many zoo-based breeding programs have genuinely resulted in self-sustaining wild populations, compared to the vast number of animals kept primarily for public display? The numbers are not as encouraging as often portrayed. The primary focus and the bulk of our resources should be directed towards in-situ conservation, protecting animals and their habitats where they belong. This means tackling poaching, habitat destruction, and human-wildlife conflict directly, rather than investing so heavily in maintaining artificial populations in captivity, which often serve more as an attraction than a genuine conservation engine.
Mr. Carter, Dr. Vance has consistently emphasized the educational and research benefits that zoos provide, suggesting they inspire future conservationists and contribute vital knowledge. If zoos, as you advocate, were to be phased out or abolished, how would society effectively achieve these important goals for conservation, education, and scientific understanding of wildlife?
That's a fair question, Alex. Firstly, regarding education, I believe we often underestimate the power and effectiveness of alternative methods. We live in an age of incredible technological advancement. High-quality wildlife documentaries, immersive virtual reality experiences, and interactive online platforms can provide incredibly engaging and informative educational experiences, often showing animals in their natural behaviors and habitats in ways zoos cannot. These methods can reach a global audience and foster a deep respect for wildlife without the ethical compromise of captivity. Furthermore, legitimate animal sanctuaries, those that rescue animals from abusive situations and do not engage in breeding or commercial exhibition, can also play an educational role by showcasing the impact of human cruelty and the importance of providing refuge. As for research, a significant amount can, and should, be conducted non-invasively in the wild. For research that requires closer proximity, sanctuaries housing non-releasable animals could provide opportunities. I'd also argue that the education offered by many zoos can be misleading. Observing an animal in an artificial enclosure, often displaying stereotypical behaviors, doesn't truly educate the public about its wild nature or the complexities of its ecosystem. It can present a sanitized and ultimately inaccurate picture of wildlife.
Mr. Carter, while documentaries and VR are valuable tools, they simply cannot replace the impact of a real, live encounter with an animal. There's an emotional connection, a sense of awe and wonder that is uniquely fostered by seeing these creatures up close. This connection is often the spark that ignites a lifelong passion for conservation, especially in young people. We see it time and again. Children who visit zoos go on to become biologists, conservationists, and environmentally conscious citizens. To dismiss this powerful influence is a mistake. Regarding research, the accessibility and controlled environment of accredited zoos are indispensable for certain types of studies that are impractical or impossible in the wild. We can monitor animals closely, collect biological samples non-invasively, and test new veterinary treatments that benefit both captive and wild populations. Many breakthroughs in understanding animal physiology, disease, and reproduction have come from zoo-based research. Moreover, zoos often serve as crucial training grounds for wildlife veterinarians and researchers. Abolishing them would create a significant void in our ability to generate knowledge and train the next generation of experts dedicated to animal welfare and conservation.
In closing, I want to reiterate that despite any perceived benefits, the fundamental ethical dilemma of keeping wild sentient beings in captivity for human purposes remains. The arguments for zoos often gloss over the inherent suffering and deprivation experienced by many animals, the stress, the boredom, the inability to express their full range of natural behaviors. Even the best intentions for conservation or education cannot, in my view, justify compromising an individual animal's right to a life free from the constraints of a cage or an enclosure, however enriched it might be. The claim that zoos are essential arks for endangered species is also an overstatement when we consider the scale of the biodiversity crisis. True conservation success lies in protecting ecosystems and tackling the root causes of species decline, habitat loss, climate change, and illegal wildlife trade. We must shift our priorities and resources towards robust, in situ conservation efforts and support legitimate animal sanctuaries that provide genuine refuge for animals in need, without the agenda of public display or breeding for captivity. My vision for the future is one where we learn to respect and coexist with wild animals in their natural habitats, not as living exhibits in our cities. It's time to move beyond the outdated concept of the zoo and embrace a more compassionate and effective approach to wildlife conservation and appreciation, one that truly values their freedom and intrinsic worth.
To conclude, I stand by the conviction that modern, accredited zoos play an indispensable and ethically justifiable role in our world. While we must always strive for the highest possible standards of animal welfare and continuously improve our practices, to dismiss their contributions to conservation, education, and research would be a profound disservice to global biodiversity efforts. For many species, zoos are not just a refuge. They are a critical component of their survival strategy, working in tandem with in situ projects. These institutions are at the forefront of fighting extinction, managing complex breeding programs, and reintroducing animals to the wild where possible. They educate millions, fostering a connection with the natural world that is vital for inspiring public support for conservation. The research conducted in zoos provides invaluable insights that benefit animal health and welfare, both in captivity and in their natural environments. We must not forget the dedicated professionals, the veterinarians, keepers, scientists, and educators who pour their lives into caring for these animals and working towards a future where wildlife thrives. Therefore, I urge us to support and engage with accredited zoos that are committed to these high standards. They are not relics of the past. but evolving, dynamic institutions that are essential allies in the complex and challenging fight to protect our planet's precious wildlife for generations to come. The key is not abolition, but continued evolution, an unwavering commitment to ethical practices and meaningful conservation impact.
Thank you, Dr. Vance and Mr. Carter, for a truly insightful and thought-provoking debate. We've heard compelling arguments from both sides. Dr. Vance highlighting the role of modern zoos in conservation, education, and research, emphasizing their evolution and ethical commitments. And Mr. Carter raising fundamental ethical objections to captivity, advocating for a primary focus on in situ conservation, and questioning the true welfare of animals in zoo environments. It's clear that the question of whether keeping animals in zoos is ethically justifiable is complex, with no easy answers. It requires ongoing discussion, critical evaluation, and a deep consideration of our responsibilities towards the other species with whom we share this planet. Thank you both again, and thank you to our audience for joining us. We hope this discussion has provided you with much to reflect